in interesting times. Today's stories. Family mourns Sala after footballer's body has been identified. Catalonia separatists' trial is called a media as well as a legal battle. A U.S. envoy says hard work is still needed before Kim-Trump summit. Edmonton endures below zero temperatures. The Church of Christ extends help to Vancouver residents. The aid to humanity continues in Montreal. Plus, changes in tuition fee regulations aim to lower cost of college education in Ontario. This is Eagle News Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Arnie Aquino. Argentine footballer Emiliano Sala's family grieved after British authorities formally identified his body as the one recovered from the wreckage of a plane that went down in the Channel more than 2 weeks ago.
Fue muy corta la carrera, no se puede creer lo que ha pasado, pero es muy triste esto. Bueno, saber que lo vamos a tener acá y que por lo menos de ir a llevarle una flor y recordarlo siempre.
Argentine footballing idols Diego Maradona and Gabriel Bautista also paid tribute to 28-year-old Sala. His French former club Nantes said it was retiring Sala's number 9 jersey. All matches in France's top 2 divisions this weekend will be preceded by a minute of applause for him. The light aircraft carrying Sala from Nantes to his new club disappeared near the British island of Guernsey on January 21st. The only other person on board was the aircraft's 59-year-old pilot, David Ibbotson, who has not been found. The player's body was first spotted by British rescuers using a remotely operated underwater vehicle on Sunday, close to where the plane vanished from radar.
Fue obviamente un golpe muy duro, esta pesadilla que empezó hace poco más de 2 semanas y todavía va a seguir. No vamos a encontrar respuesta, no sé si es necesario buscarla. Obviamente el pedido de que se haga justicia va a estar siempre.
Investigators recovered the body and transported it to the southern English coast. It was taken to Bournemouth, where it was formally identified.
Y después el sábado nos confirma que ya iba a hacerse público, que estaba entusiasmado, que iba a arrancar a entrenar el martes, que iba a debutar contra Arsenal, conocer un idioma nuevo, conocer una liga nueva. Todo eso para él reflejaba mucha felicidad, mucho entusiasmo y así lo vamos a recordar.
Investigators said they were abandoning plans to lift the plane wreckage out of the water due to bad weather. The trial of 12 Catalan leaders over their role over Catalonia's failed independence bid will be fought between Madrid and the separatists in the international media as much as in the courtroom. The separatists who govern Catalonia have for years tried to convince the world of the legitimacy of their cause and make the case that Spain lacks political freedom. But with over 600 journalists from 150 media outlets from around the world accredited to cover the trial, this time around Spain's central government does not want to remain on the sidelines. The Foreign Ministry has set up a Secretary of State charged with promoting Spain's image abroad, called Global Spain, which announced before the start of the trial that it would launch its own campaign to counteract the baseless attacks by the independence movement.
Se solucionará, habrá una sentencia que dictaminará pues lo que consideren los jueces, que será justo, y no sé hasta qué punto solucionará algo más allá de cómo acaben los presos o la sanción que se les vaya a dar a ellos.
Primera respuesta, yo creo que este sistema funciona muy bien, hay un sistema judicial que funciona bien y con la decisión que tomen, pues yo estoy a favor de la que tomen, tanto para que vuelvan como para condenados o lo que...
Yo diría que no es independiente y no es justa, y en el caso de que no se celebre un juicio así, creo que debería mediar el Tribunal de Estrasburgo.
les ganes que tenim tothom és de que fos un judici just, però crec que s'ha demostrat perfectament de que és un judici polític i que el concepte aquest de justícia no hi serà per enlloc. Vull dir, està la cosa molt decidida, però també
Depende cómo. Yo creo que además van a salir bastante bien parados, ¿eh? O sea, yo, tal ahora como está la política en España, creo que saldrá mejor de lo que debería salir. Pero si esto tiene que calmar las aguas y que todo vuelva un poco a su cauce, pues bienvenido sea.
A spokesman for the Secretary of State said that, quote, "Our work is going to focus on dismantling with solid arguments and proven facts the fake news about this trial." There was still some hard work to be done ahead of the upcoming summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Stephen Biegun, the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, said 3 days of preparatory talks in Pyongyang that ended Friday had been productive, but more dialogue was needed ahead of the summit scheduled for Vietnam from February 27 to 28. Biegun briefed South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa on his Pyongyang visit, also confirming the summit would be held in the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi.
The President is very much looking forward to taking the next steps. We have some hard work to do with the DPRK between now and then, and I'm confident that if both sides stay committed, we can make real progress here. We don't know where it's going to go, but we are in the midst of a conversation with the North, and our discussions were productive.
Kang told Biegun that the U.S. had South Korea's full support for the summit. The U.S. State Department said Biegun will meet again with Pyongyang officials ahead of the Trump-Kim talks. At their landmark summit in Singapore last year, the mercurial U.S. and North Korean leaders produced a vaguely worded document in which Kim pledged to work towards the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. But progress has since stalled, with the two sides disagreeing over what that meant. Experts says tangible progress on Pyongyang's nuclear weapons will be needed for the second summit if it is to avoid being dismissed as reality TV. Up next, Edmonton endures below zero temperatures. The Church of Christ extends help to Vancouver residents. The aid to humanity continues in Montreal. These and more when Eagle News Canada returns. We will be right back. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. The 3 prairie provinces in Canada have been in deep freeze for more than a week. Thomas Likeness reports.
With the extreme cold temperatures in Canada's prairie provinces, probably the best place for the car is parked, preferably in a garage. The 3 prairie provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, have been in a deep freeze for more than a week. Temperatures with wind chill have dropped to the -40s overnight, with daytime highs in the -30s. Combined with snow at times, it has made driving hazardous because of reduced visibility. Even without the snow, streets are a sheet of ice, and the slippery conditions have resulted in hundreds of accidents in the major cities of the provinces. The cold is dangerous for those who are outdoors. Prolonged exposure can lead to frostbite and even death. In Alberta, weather has been blamed for the deaths of 2 people. The body of a 92-year-old man was found a short distance from his car, which ended up in a ditch. He froze to death, going for help. Edmonton police say a man was found frozen to death near the city's football stadium. For the homeless, finding a warm place to stay can be a challenge. Some set up makeshift tents. Others find a bed for the night at shelters, but those shelters are running at capacity. People who have to be outside cope by dressing with many layers of clothing. And this little guy, well, he has his own fur coat. The prairie provinces are unlikely to see any relief from these cold temperatures for at least a week. In the deep freeze in Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, I'm 1 with 25.
Thanks, Thomas. As temperatures continue to drop, the Church of Christ, through the Aid to Humanity project, helps keep neighbors warm by giving away winter clothes.
According to Poverty Trends 2018, there are nearly 5 million people in Canada still living below the poverty line. British Columbia has the highest child poverty rate, and among the major Canadian cities, Vancouver region tops the list. With this demand to cover the basic necessities of millions of individuals, especially this time of year when harsh winter weather worsens their condition, the need for warm clothing is something that has to be filled.
We are here at the Iglesia Ni Cristo House of Worship in Surrey, British Columbia, where boxes of winter clothing will be donated through Help on Wheels, a non-profit organization.
Help on Wheels is a local charity that provides free clothing, footwear, and furniture to families in need in the Lower Mainland. We help everyone that is in need, but most of our help goes to students in the Surrey school system. Teachers and teachers' assistants identify the families that are in need, and we will actually help them one-on-one to get through the seasons that they're trying to battle through.
British Columbia has usually milder winters compared to the rest of the country, but with recent extreme cold warnings this month and for the upcoming months, the demand for winter clothes is high.
With the colder weather, it always spikes up. We resourced a lot of the kids already with coats and boots, but with the colder spell, now it's the toques and the gloves. So now that it's even colder, it's even worse. So it's nice to be able to replenish that.
Recognizing the need of the community for more warm clothing, the Iglesia Ni Cristo or Church of Christ here in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia is doing its part by donating boxes full of jackets, coats, hoodies, sweaters, socks, gloves, toques, and winter footwear to keep British Columbians warm this winter.
Church of Christ here in the district of British Columbia, we have the winter clothing drive for those who are really in need, because we know in this part of the world there are the weather is really cold sometimes, and we have some less fortunate, not only brethren but also our fellow men who are in this part of the world in Canada that cannot afford sometimes to have their winter clothing. This is what we do in the church. The brethren are always excited to share what we have to those, especially to those who are less fortunate and those who are really in need of help.
We are happy to work with church organizations because the heart is in the right place and there's a spirit of giving. And so receiving something like this is overwhelming because I first of all wasn't expecting this much. But it's just, you guys have taken care to label, to sort, and to really be a blessing versus piles of stuff that we would have to go through. So this is wonderful.
This is not the first time the Church of Christ spearheads humanitarian efforts like this to help the community.
It's not the first time. Regularly, we conduct these activities, helping those who are in need. But they're done in different forms. Sometimes we help those who are in need through food donations. We work with local charities. We visit the home for the elderly. Lots of activities going on for the Iglesia Ni Cristo, the Church of Christ, and very happy to be a part of it.
Reporting for Eagle News, I am Kathleen Cruz, 1 with 25.
Meanwhile, in Montreal, another humanitarian effort of the Church of Christ took place. Rosalie Castro reports.
Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce is a densely populated and diverse borough in Montreal. Although community with landmarks, universities, and tourist attractions, it also faces the universal problem of poverty. According to the Poverty Roundtable Reduction, around 45,000 residents fall below the poverty line in the CDN-NDG Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce borough. CDN-NDG says Poverty Reduction Roundtable brought together various stakeholders, their goal to provide the CDN-NDG Borough Council with a proposed action plan of concrete poverty reduction measures. The council has developed Plan 45,000 to help the residents of CDN-NDG through a 5-year plan with housing, transportation, food security, income and employment, access to information, and governance. Members of the Church of Christ in the District of Ottawa from the congregations of Montreal and Beaconsfield hold another Aid to Humanity in the community of Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, through the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation.
In line of the continuous efforts of the Church of Christ and under the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, we continue our efforts in extending our humanitarian efforts and help to our fellow men who are in need. And as a continuation of such, we conducted an evangelical mission which was visited by so many guests. Hundreds of guests came and they showed their interest to know more about the Church of Christ. And we continue to hand over care packages and extend our help so that then we could be able to extend our hand in helping the needy.
We also conducted many saturation drives in the shelters, on the streets, and in different buildings. And the brethren in the local congregations of Montreal and Beaconsfield donated hundreds of care packages to the people who are in need.
And I met earlier when they arrived 2 years ago some people from the church that I really appreciate. Plenty of joy. People are happy and singing, and it's a good gathering. Appreciate that.
Been given lots of gifts, as you can see here, for myself, for my kids, for every one of us. Man, it is glorious. It's very amazing to care for mankind, to care for the livelihood of persons, extending fellowship and love. I look forward to coming to the Church of Christ another time, not just for the gift, but also to hear the word of God and to be blessed by His word.
Yes, I'm so happy to come here tonight for the Evangeline of anniversary, 10 year of anniversary. And I was so feeling so nice and I'm so happy for tonight. And
well, I think it's really generous for the church to give out packages to support people. I really appreciate people helping other people.
Hundreds of care packages were handed out and residents benefited from an evangelical mission and program held by the members of the church. Reporting for Eagle News, this is Rosalie Castro. I am one with 25.
Coming up, the Ontario government is making changes to tuition fee regulations aiming to lower the cost of college education. Eagle News Canada will return shortly. This is Eagle News Canada. I am Arnie Aquino. Education is an investment, but how much are you willing to pay? Find out why the Ontario government is making changes to tuition fee regulations in colleges. Patricia?
Education is an investment, and post-secondary education in Ontario is indeed an expensive one. According to the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities, post-secondary students in Ontario currently pay the highest tuition fee rates in Canada. University tuition fees on average cost $9,000 a year, and college tuition fees cost about $3,400 annually. Because of this, the Ontario government is making significant changes this year to its student loan program, OSAP, or the Ontario Student Assistance Program, to help lower tuition fees. According to the ministry's website, tuition rates will now be lowered by 10% for all students at every publicly funded college and university in Ontario.
I don't think it's good. It doesn't help as much because it's reducing it by 10%. I know it makes more loans, which is also not good because a lot of loans are hard to pay back. So grants are a lot easier to help with.
In addition, students will also now get a choice to opt out of other non-tuition student fees such as student handbooks, non-student related organizations, or student club fees, thereby further reducing several $100s from their annual expenses.
I have dental covered already without the school. I don't participate in many clubs, so a lot of those fees I don't need to be paying. I'm not going to use them.
The 6-month grace period on loans after graduating will now be charged interest. All these and other changes have been outlined and presented by the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities.
They're actually so stressed about it after hearing this stuff, when the interest is charged at once, and they don't know, they won't be getting the job for sure because they're doing a 2-year program and some sort of programs that's so demanding, and they can't get the job right away. So they will have to do their jobs and what they do right now part-time, and they will be able to continue their higher education too. So I think that they're going to have a hard time.
These changes are not getting a full approval, especially from the students. The Canadian Federation of Students Ontario organized a rally calling for Premier Doug Ford to not follow through these changes. Losing the 6-month interest-free grace period, less financial assistance, and even lesser student groups and clubs budgets have caused major concerns for post-secondary students.
We all have a life to live, and we also don't want to just think about the loans we have to pay when we get out of an education. We kind of want to relax and breathe, considering that schools are already mentally draining, and going day to day to finish these courses and just finish school and get out there, it's kind of scary to think that I'm going to have to pay right away, and with what funds, right?
Marilee Fullerton, Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities, in her interview with Metro Morning, affirms that the current Ontario government maintains communication with students and academic institutions to find a positive way forward for everyone. Reporting for Eagle News, Patricia Kadai, IM1 with 25.
Thanks, Patricia. That is this week's Eagle News Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I'm Arnie Aquino. I am 1 with 25.